The Girl in the Elevator, a true horror story. In January 2013, a 21-year-old Canadian college student named Elisa Lam checked into the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. The hotel already had a dark reputation, decades of suicides, murders, and unexplained deaths. But Elisa didn't know that. She was traveling alone, blogging her journey, writing about books, mental health, and the small joys of being young and curious in a big world. 5 days later, she vanished. At first it seemed ordinary. A young tourist missed her checkout date. The hotel staff searched her room. Nothing looked disturbed. Her belongings were there. The police were called, and soon officers, canine units, and volunteers searched the hotel hallways, stairwells, rooftops, even locked rooms. No trace of Elisa. Then, 2 weeks after she disappeared, the hotel released surveillance footage to the public. That's when everything turned into a nightmare. The video showed Elisa inside an elevator. She stepped in, pressed several buttons, then waited. The doors didn't close. She leaned forward, peered out into the hallway, then stepped back, in then out again. She hid in the corner, as if someone were watching her. Her movements were erratic, almost childlike. She waved her hands in strange patterns, fingers twisting unnaturally, like she was talking to someone who wasn't there. But the hallway outside the elevator was empty. No one appeared in the footage. No footsteps, no shadow. After a minute, Elisa stepped out of the elevator and walked away. The doors finally closed. That was the last time she was seen alive. The video went viral. Millions watched it late at night, replaying it over and over. People reported feeling uneasy, like they were intruding on something they weren't meant to see. Some noticed that the elevator behaved oddly. Others claimed Elisa's gestures didn't look human, as if she were responding to something invisible. Then things got worse. Hotel guests began complaining about low water pressure. Some said the water was dark, with a strange taste. Maintenance workers were sent to investigate the rooftop water tanks, large containers that supplied water to the building. When they opened one tank, they found Elisa Lam's body floating inside. She had been dead for weeks. The tank was on the roof, behind doors that were usually locked and alarmed. The tanks themselves were tall and difficult to climb, with heavy lids that were hard to open, especially from the inside. Yet the lid on Elisa's tank was found open. No signs of assault. No obvious injuries. Her clothes were floating separately in the water. The coroner ruled the death an accidental drowning, noting that Elisa had a history of bipolar disorder and may have experienced a psychotic episode. But that explanation didn't silence the fear. How did she get to the roof without triggering alarms? Why didn't search dogs detect her scent there? How did she climb into the tank alone? And if it was an accident, why does the elevator video feel so wrong? Former guests of the Cecil Hotel later shared chilling experiences, hearing footsteps behind them in empty hallways, feeling watched, waking up at night unable to breathe. Some claimed room 514, near where Elisa stayed, had an oppressive presence that made them feel panicked for no reason. Even today, people say watching the elevator footage too long makes them uneasy, as if Elisa is trying to warn us through the screen. Because the most terrifying part isn't how she died, it's the thought that, in her final moments, she may not have been alone even if no one else was there. For more chilling tales, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. The Watcher of Westfield. In 2014, Derek and Maria Broadus finally bought their dream home. It was a beautiful 6-bedroom house in Westfield, New Jersey, a quiet, wealthy neighborhood known for safety and good schools. They paid over $1 million for it. They hadn't even moved in yet when the first letter arrived. It was addressed simply to the new owner. Inside was a typed note. The writer claimed their family had been watching the house for decades. They called themselves the Watcher. They wrote, "My grandfather watched the house in the 1920s and my father watched in the 1960s. It is now my time." At first, Derek thought it was a prank, but the letter continued. "Have they found what is in the walls yet? I am pleased to know your names now, and the name of the young blood you have brought to me." The young blood referred to their children. The letter specifically mentioned how many kids they had. The family hadn't moved in yet. Someone was watching. They contacted the police. Officers told them not to tell the neighbors, just in case one of them was the sender. A few days later, another letter arrived. This one was darker. The Watcher described the children in detail, what they were doing, where they were playing. "I see already that you have flooded 657 Boulevard with contractors so that you can destroy the house as it was supposed to be. TSK, 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 bad move." The address was included. The letter ended with, "Will the young blood play in the basement, or are they too afraid to go down there alone?" The basement. The house had an old, unfinished basement. The family had never publicly talked about it. Police investigated. They tested DNA from the envelope. It came from a woman. That was all they could determine. They interviewed neighbors. One family had chairs positioned oddly close to their backyard fence. Another neighbor had no clear alibi when letters were mailed, but no proof. Meanwhile, the letters kept coming. The Watcher seemed angry that the Broadus family had brought change to the home. They accused them of greed. They asked, "Who has the bedrooms facing the street? I'll know as soon as you move in." The implication was clear. They would be watching from outside. The family became terrified. They stopped sleeping at the house. They installed cameras. They hired private investigators. One night their security lights turned on in the yard, but when police arrived, no one was there. The worst part, no fingerprints, no witnesses, no clear suspects. The house had previous owners for decades, and none reported letters like these. The Watcher claimed the house demanded young blood and that it was their duty to wait for the right family. The Broadus family never moved in. They tried to sell the house, but once the story became public, buyers backed out. Who wants a home that comes with a stalker who writes about your children? Years passed. The letters stopped, but the sender was never caught. To this day, no one knows who the Watcher is. Was it a neighbor, a former owner, someone mentally unstable, or someone who truly believed the house belonged to them? The scariest part, the house still stands on 657 Boulevard. Families still live nearby, and if someone has been watching since the 1920s, they may still be watching. The smiley face killers are true horror theory for more than 2 decades. Bodies of young men have been pulled from rivers across the United States. At first, police called them accidental drownings, drunk college students, late nights, poor choices. But some investigators believe something far darker is happening. They call it the smiley face killers. It began in the late 1990s. College-aged men, usually white, athletic, well-liked, would go out drinking with friends. They'd be seen leaving a bar or party. Sometimes they'd text someone. Sometimes they'd say, "I'm heading home." They never made it. Days or weeks later, their bodies were found in nearby rivers, lakes, or creeks. The cause of death was almost always listed as drowning. No major injuries, no robbery, no clear suspects. But then investigators noticed something strange. Near several recovery sites, there were graffiti smiley faces painted on bridges, walls, or walkways close to where the bodies were found. At first, police dismissed it. Smiley faces are common graffiti, coincidence, until the pattern kept repeating. To retired New York City detectives Kevin Gannon and Anthony Duarte, along with criminal justice professor Dr. Lee Gilbertson, began connecting cases. They found similarities. Victims vanished near nightlife areas, bodies recovered weeks later, often miles from where they disappeared. Decomposition levels didn't always match time in water. Some victims showed GHB or other sedatives in toxicology reports. Smiley face graffiti appeared nearby, often freshly painted. They believed these men weren't falling into water. They were being drugged, abducted, and placed there later, possibly by multiple killers working together. One chilling case involved Brian Schaefer, a medical student who disappeared in 2006 after leaving a bar in Ohio. Surveillance footage showed him entering the bar but never leaving. His body was never found. Another case, La Crosse, Wisconsin, saw over a dozen young men drown in the same river system over a short period. Locals whispered about something hunting drunk students at night. Some families reported unexplained injuries, bruises, scrapes, broken fingernails, things that didn't match a simple fall into water. Even more disturbing, many victims were strong swimmers. Police departments strongly deny the theory. The FBI reviewed some cases and concluded there was no evidence of a nationwide serial killer network. They attribute the deaths to alcohol, poor lighting, slippery riverbanks, and cold water shock. And yes, some smiley face graffiti was painted after bodies were found, but not all, and not every case fits the accident explanation. The horror of the smiley face killers isn't just the bodies, it's the uncertainty. If it's real, it means killers could blend into nightlife crowds, watching for isolated men, drugging them, and disappearing without a trace, leaving police to call it an accident. And if it's not real, why do the patterns feel so wrong? Why do so many families say the same thing? He wouldn't have just fallen in. To this day, no one has been arrested, no one charged, and every year more young men are pulled from the water. Some investigators say the smiley faces are a signature, others say they're just there to make us afraid. Either way, if you walk home drunk at night and pass a bridge with a yellow smile painted on it, you might want to ask yourself, who put it there? For more chilling tales, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. You won't want to miss where we go next.